Hi guys. How are you all beautiful people? Hope you all are doing fine. And yes, this is the next series of Reborn in My Hero Academia. A man is reborn in the world of My Hero Academia and forced to bear the burdens of his predecessors. Thankfully he has a solid quirk and an enchanted gift to see him through. Watch as he nukes the world timeline down the shitter and dominates his Hero Academia. So let's start. With the Naruto blackout incident handled, Deku and I retired for the day. Returning home, I hid the syringe of Rokuro's blood in the mini-fridge in my room. Finally, I relaxed, letting up the telekinetic barrier I had had up for over 5 hours. Exhaustion hit me in waves and I drifted off peacefully to sleep. I awoke the next morning with satisfying pops in my bones. I moaned happily. That was some great sleep. After my morning routine, I left for my regular Sunday exercises, and met up with Deku and Imiko at Dagobah Beach. It no longer looked like a dump, as clean white sands spread across it like pristine oceans of chalk. Today was a great day. I could just feel it. Imiko played in the ocean as me and Deku finished our workouts for the day. Deku, with 2 whole years of proper nutrition instead of a measly 10 months like in canon, grown into a fine muscular Greek hero of a man. Standing at a good 5'7" instead of the canon 5'5", he could be mistaken for someone entirely different by someone who hadn't seen him in a year or so. I wasn't far behind. Rather, I was even ahead of him. At 5'10", with lean, strong and chiseled muscles and washboard abs, I was already far above average for a Japanese boy. Now if only I didn't have a hopelessly average face, I could have been an Adonis. But then again, I prefer this to being the center of attention as an X-Man. Easier to hide in crowds and pull shady shit if you look like Joe Schmo. Not so much if you're fucking Brad Pitt. Or fucking Brad Pitt for that matter. Post-workout, Imiko came and sat with us as we recovered, fidgeting about, inching slowly nearer to me. How cute. But first things first. Deku, you up for running an errand? I asked. Sure. What do you want? He answered. A couple of ice packs, bandages, duct tape, and a W.C. Ronald's Joyful Meal set. Actually, get 7. I'm feeling awfully hungry. I said, handing him the money for it. All right. You'll wait here, right? He asked. Why is that even a question? I know that tone of yours, Haru-chan. You always say that when you want to do something behind my back. And also, because the last time, you buried me in the sand and left for 2 hours saying you'll be back in 10. Come on. It was for your training. I totally didn't forget about you. Yeah. That's what you said the other time when you left to get juice and then somehow ended up being over 30 minutes late. I even got attacked by a villain that time. But did you die? I teased. I hate arguing with you. But if I come back and you're not here, I'll smack you all the way to Tuesday. Deku threatened. Ahan. You will now, eh? I said, leaning towards Imiko. Fine. Go flirt with her to death, Baker. He said, before storming off. That was odd. Has Deku become codependent on me or something? I activated Laplace Jr. and confirmed. The answer was a resounding yes. Apparently he had begun to see me as a substitute for a sort of twisted father/mentor/best friend figure. And now he's probably afraid that a girl is going to steal his best friend away. How wonderful. So wonderful in fact that it was something a certain blonde beanstalk was supposed to train out of him. But what can I expect from small might? Of course he didn't notice this. I asked Laplace Jr. once again. Will this be detrimental to my plans? No was the answer. Well then, that settles it. No need to fix what ain't broke. Besides, I'm sure he'll grow out of it in due time when he makes more friends. /n, insert Logan Michaels, always sunny meme. Achoo. Is someone badmouthing me? Anyways. Back to Imiko's situation. So, I found an apartment near here. The rent is, well, cheapish. Wanna see? I asked. Aren't we waiting for Deku-kun? She asked, grinning wide. We'll be back before he even notices. I said. He. Okay then. She said. As we got up to leave, Deku jumped out from behind a nearby building and marched up to us angrily. So you were about to go off, weren't you? He said, mad, hands on hips, pointing accusingly at me. What are you, a housewife? Geez. Fine. I'll tell you. I conceded. Tell me what? Deku asked. Imiko's parents disowned her after the trial. We were just going house hunting. And I didn't think Imiko wanted you to worry. That's why I sent you away on an errand. I explained. Oh. I am so sorry. He said. No worries. Wanna come along? Imiko said. Yep. Well then, let's go. We need to meet the broker at the shop. I said. Back at the shop, the shopkeeper noticed us coming, and put down his cigarette. He did say he didn't want children to be around smoke. What a nice guy. Deku-chan, Haru, how are you doing? We're actually here for the apartment. For a friend. I said, pointing at Imiko. Oh. Aren't you that serial killer girl? He asked. No more. I got acquitted. She replied cheerily. Good on ya. Shoulda known you weren't guilty. He said. So, the houses. Yes. There's 3 apartments available. 2 of them require paperwork and I'm guessing you don't want that. I nodded. Thought so. Here's the last one. A bit far off but it's a fine one. Figured you'd want this, friend, far and safe. It's on 54th Street, in Kamino, Yokohama. Behind the station. The rent is up front, first of the month. The guy who owns it is a decent chap. There's even a bar downstairs if you want something cooked. And the name on the lease. No need to worry, they'll forge some. Hell, they wouldn't even charge rent most of the time, but for appearance sake, you gotta, you know. He rubbed his fingers together. Yeah. Probably looks shady on an audit if there's renters living freely. Well then, that's great. When can she move in? Today, tomorrow. Anytime really. He replied. How much stuff do you have? I asked Imiko. 3 bags tops. She said. All right. Today will do. Can you inform them that we're coming? What's the owner's name again? I asked. Shigaraki. Tamura Shigaraki. He answered. I already knew the owner's name. After all, I had orchestrated the whole thing. From the tone and pitch of my voice, to the suggestions sent to the shopkeep, the urgency indicate through the conversational undertones and even the most opportune timing, making sure that only one place would be easily available. Fairly simple when using Laplace Jr.'s predictions. Shigaraki's bar. The easiest way to keep an eye on the man-child was to keep someone close to him. As the saying goes, keep your friends close, and your enemies closer. And how much closer can I get than my future girlfriend's landlord? And he wouldn't suspect a fucking thing. Neither would Imiko. Perfect for spying on the world's most dangerous criminal. After all, what he doesn't know, he can't fight against. For all Shigaraki knows, I'll be the horny boyfriend that visits a bit too often. Then when the time is right, not only will I be able to claim his life but also the government benefits for residents of the soon-to-be-destroyed Kamino ward. And nothing tastes better than robbing the government of their ill-gotten tax dollars. Except chocolate-flavored double chocolate chip ice cream, of course. 3 hours and a long train ride later, we arrived at the bar. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. Welp. No one's home, I guess. Deku said. We'll come back later then. Imiko suggested. No need. We're open. A voice came from above. We looked up to see a man in the shape of a black fog staring down from the first floor window. Just cleaning up your apartment. You are the new renters, yes? He asked. Yeah. That's us. Or rather her. We have homes to go back to. Deku said nervously, only to instantly get elbowed in the guts by me. Imiko looked at him aghast, tears pooling in her eyes. Goddamit, Deku. Have some consideration, will you? I said. Oh. Right. No, Imiko, I didn't mean it like that. He explained hastily. Then what did you mean it as? I dug into him. No, I don't know what I was thinking. I am so sorry, Imiko. Please forgive me. He bowed deeply, his head almost touching the ground. Imiko calmed down considerably at that and proceeded to just ignore Deku. Ha! I sighed. Deku, Shigaraki-san, can you cook us something? I'm not Shigaraki. The Fogman said, call me Kurajiri. And yes, we'll get right to it. Come boy. Kurajiri dropped me a key before teleporting beside us, gesturing at Deku to follow. Deku nodded and followed him down to the bar. Let's get you settled. I said, picking up the bag Deku had brought along. Guhan. She said dejectedly. After unpacking her clothes and books, she was set for the day. To my surprise, the apartment was fully furnished. They even had a fridge. And hot water in the shower. Man. Even I want to live here now. After all, back at the farm we only had cold showers. And in the winter, a cold shower might as well be no shower, because there was no way I was taking one. Just as we finished, a delicious smell began wafting in through the window. A black mist floated outside, mid-air, and from within popped a head. Deku. Dinner's ready. Come on down. He said. Yeah. Hold on a minute. I said. I walked over to Imiko's room, as the sound of running water sounded out. Hey. Dinner's ready. Let's go. I called out. I'm almost done. She said, and done she was. Seconds later she rushed out, wrapped in a towel, meeting my eyes. A blush crept up her face, as she looked at me. Ah yeah. I'll wait outside. I said. She nodded. A couple of minutes later she walked out clothed and we went down to get dinner. What took you so long? Deku asked. Nothing. Let's eat. I said. Sure. Deku replied. It was almost 6:30 by the time we finished up at the bar and decided to leave. As Deku went to call a cab, I walked Emiko back to her apartment. So, will you be fine alone? I asked. Yeah. I think. She said. Okay then. You have my number. If you need anything, you know you can call anytime. I said, leaning away from the door, preparing to leave. Her. She answered non-committally. Well then, good night. I said, beginning my descent down the stairs, when suddenly she caught my shirt by the hem. I turned to see her eyes downcast, tearing up. Go. What? I asked. Don't go. She cried, please don't leave me. You know I can't be here all the time, right? I said. She looked at me with despair, as tears burst through. Deku arrived just then. Right man for the right job. I looked at him pleadingly. He answered with a smile, as if to say, go for it. Damn it, Deku. I'm not good with crying people. Shouldn't you be helping me with your ilk? I turned back to look at Emiko. Look Emiko, I said, before I couldn't say any more, as Emiko shoved her tongue my throat in a sloppy kiss. All right. I guess this is the direction we're going. She pushed me against the wall, passionately kissing me, before pulling me inside the house. I protested as Deku smiled, closing the door behind me, with a thumbs up. Goddamn it, Deku. But this was good too. It felt good at least. My last life I was a virgin, so I didn't know much about it. But suffice to say, I was getting lucky tonight. Just not the way I wanted. Then I suddenly came to my senses. This wasn't how I wanted it to go. And if it weren't how I wanted, it wouldn't be at all. I pulled away from Emiko. No. I said. Why? Don't you like me? Do you hate me? She asked. No. But you're sad and desperate. And I would rather not take advantage of scared little girl. I said, looking her eye to eye. She began to laugh even as she continued sniffling. You're so silly, Haru. Anyone else would have taken the opportunity, you know. She said. Well, I'm not just anyone else, am I? I quipped, pulling Emiko into a comforting hug. Come Monday, I bid Emiko goodbye and left by the morning train to Muzutafu. Deku brought me my spare uniform, from my hidden locker on Dagobah Beach, and met me at school. So, you did it? He asked. I just smiled. Oh, you definitely did it. You stud. Deku grinned pervertedly. No, I did not do it. I did her. I said. Up high. Deku said, high-fiving me. You look fucking gay. Bakugo said. Oh ho ho ho, are you jealous? I doubt any girl will like you with that raw sewage of a personality. Deku shot back. Fuck off, Deku. I can get any girl I want, he replied. Sure. Whatever you need to tell yourself. Deku said, snickering. Why you quirkless shit. Bakugo leapt at Deku head first, hands sparking, spit flying like a mad dog. Deku on the other hand, simply sidestepped his charge, took hold of his arms and thrashed him onto the tiled floor of the changing room. Go. Bakugo cried out in pain, before fainting. You've gotten pretty good. I commented, leaving the room. Thanks Haru-chan. He replied, following my lead. Say, did Small Might give you his power already? I asked. No. I am not going to take it yet. Again. Why? Because I want to clear the UA entrance exam as a quirkless person. To prove to you Sylph that you could have done it either way. I guessed. Yes. How did you know? He asked. I've been watching over you for 2 years now. It'd be a surprise if I didn't know. He. He giggled. What's tickling you now? I asked. It's just, no one saw me, or even tried to get to know me until you came along. And I'm just, so happy that you are my friend now. Deku said with pure sincerity. That's too pure. I'm gonna puke. I ruffled his hair playfully, as we headed to gym class. Later that day, after school ended, I split from Deku and left for Naruhata with the vial of Rokuro's blood. Blood doesn't stay good too long. Even mutant parasite blood with ultra regen powers. I had to use it now. I pulled up a map of Tokyo and activated Laplace Jr., calculating possibilities of the secret villain factory base that Rokuro used to create the bomber clones. Slowly and steadily over the course of an hour of eliminating paths and checking abandoned warehouses, I found it in a corner of Setagaya, in an underground abandoned parking facility. Walking in, the first thing I noticed was the pile of half-rotten bodies of what looked to be office personnel and lab workers. Members of the villain factory, I presumed. I ignored them and rifled through the computers on site for a user manual. There. I clicked on the program file and went under the help section. A library program opened up with lists of commands and algorithms ready-made for ease of access. I spent the next few hours going through them, skimming over the details. I got the gist of most of it. Selecting the appropriate ones, I walked up to the input panel and inserted the blood vial in and set the timer. Walking back to the screen, I logged the data in. Subject, K1-001. Age, 5. Sex, male. Cognizance class, superhuman. And so on and so forth. Then putting the facility on autopilot, I left for home. By next week, I would have a functional superweapon in my hands. Or at least the first prototype anyway. Age 14 and I'm already acting like a supervillain. I wonder, is this how AFO feels? That aside, what time it is? Oh wait, I know. It's Higakure time. After returning from the lab I made my way to the arcade in a nearby mall. From my bag, I pulled out a lead-lined eye cover. Putting it on, I walked into the arcade. Looking around I found her. A floating teddy bear held by the invisible girl. So easy to spot it almost stood out. She wove her way through the crowd and walked out of the arcade. All right, it's time for lights, camera, action. I walked right into her path, bumping into her, despite her attempts at avoiding it. Yaitata! She cried, falling on her butt. Oh, sorry about that. Almost didn't see you there. I said, offering her a hand. Yeah. It's okay. I'm used to it. She said, sounding a little sad. This happen a lot? I asked, picking up her teddy bear for her. Yeah. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it. She insisted. No. Actually, it is my fault. I said, removing my eye cover. How? She asked, intrigued. My quirk actually lets me see everything. Too much even, if I say so myself. So I should have seen you coming. Then you bumped into me on purpose. She said, angrily. Oh no. No. I want to get into UA this year, so I was using this eye cover support gear to train myself. Apparently though, I can't see you with it on. I explained. And you can see me now? She asked, hopefully. Yeah. I answered with a smile. Really? What do I look like? She asked. How about I tell you over some ice cream? My treat. I suggested. Sure. She agreed. As we sat down, her with her mint chocolate chip parfait, and me with my cup of double chocolate chip, she pushed. So can you tell me what I look like? I'll do you one better, I'll draw what you look like. I said, pulling out my notebook and pen. You can draw. How well? Why don't you wait and see? I winked. As she ate her ice cream, looking at me with side glances from time to time, I drew her face. Don't stare so much. I'm going feel self-conscious. She said, blushing. Don't worry. I'm done. Here, see. I said, showing her the drawing. It showed an above-average-looking girl with wavy straight hair, that was frayed at the ends. Her nose had freckles on it and some blackheads littered here and there. You're not a very good flirt. Aren't you supposed to make me look beautiful? She asked. Did you want me to draw a caricature or did you want to see what your face looked like? I asked nonchalantly. And if you want me to flirt, I said, flashing a smile, clicking my tongue, and pointing at her, Johnny Bravo style, you just have to ask, baby. She began to giggle cutely. You're such a silly guy. Haru. Shikimori Haru. I said. Right. Shikimori-san. I'm Higakyo. Toru Higakyo. She said, extending a hand. I shook her hand firmly. Nice to meet you, Higakyo-chan. I replied. Already on a first-name basis, are you? A girl said behind me. I turned around to see someone I didn't know looking down at me. Do I know you? I asked the girl. Ioa. Have you already forgotten me? And here I was, thinking we had something special. She said, acting distraught. No, seriously. How do you know me? Do you even know me? And more importantly, do I know you? She mimicked. No, you don't. She added. What? Then how? I asked, confused. I activated Laplace Jr. and checked her name. How do I know you? I saw you in Pop-chan's pictures and asked her about you. I'm. Time to surprise you, bitch. Makoto Zukoki, Detective Zukoki's sister, right? Weren't you working in America? I asked. So you do know me? She said. Only through conversation. Detective Zukoki loves to talk about his famous little sister, after all. I lied. He does, doesn't he? She chirped. So you two know each other? Higakyo interrupted. Kinda. I said. My brother is a police detective and this flashy fellow here is the newest little vigilante of Naruhata. She explained. Now I wouldn't go so far as to say vigilante. I protested. You acted without a hero license and saved my brother's life from exploding monsters. That's like the definition of vigilante. Makoto cut in. Oh. You're getting more interesting by the minute, Haru-kun. Tell me more, Makoto-san, what else does he do? I get the distinct feeling that you're treating me like a sideshow attraction, ladies. I said. That's because you are a sideshow attraction. Makoto teased. Ow. That hurts my feelings. I acted, clutching my chest. Higakyo giggled. I smiled, knowing I had her firmly in my grasp. Another chip was now on my side. Now when the reporters asked my classmates about me in the future, I'd get a reputation boost like no other. And this was just the beginning. In this world every hero has stories about them from when they were kids. Stories of how they helped others from a young age, how exceptional they were. Basically a circle jerk. But an important circle jerk nonetheless. And mine would have to be the biggest and best of them all. After all, the future number one couldn't possibly have a worse backstory than the other UA students, can he? With Imiko, Higakyo, Mina, Kirishima, Deku and Bakugo already seen through, I only needed a couple more rep boosters till no one could surpass my soaring cred. Toru Higakyo was a lonely girl. And she knew it. Even as she hid her insecurity behind a veil of bubbly cheeriness, wearing the mask of a social butterfly, she knew it was a lie. All of it. The friends, the teachers, hell, her own family. No one truly saw her. Not even she herself could see it. All because of this cursed quirk. Some days she questioned if she even existed at all. Then he came into her life. Haru Shikimori. Like flash of lightning, without thunder. Like in a shoujo manga. Only he wasn't some handsome Ikeman with $1 billion fortune. He was a real guy with a real and weird personality. The first time they met he crashed into her. And apologized. He actually apologized for his mistake. Few people in her life had ever apologized for bumping into her. And it's not like she could blame them either. She was invisible after all. But not him. He apologized. And offered to treat her to ice cream, even. At first she thought that he was flirting with her, trying for a cheap hookup. If so, he was shot out of luck. She wasn't that sort of a girl. But then he did something even more unexpected. He showed her how she looked. How she really looked. Not some mocking caricature or flattering portrait. Just genuine, honest truth. But what was most important of all, was that he saw her. Truly saw her. That was when it struck her. How she hadn't noticed it immediately was beyond her. It was so obvious. All her life there had been no one who had looked her straight in the eyes. No one except Haru. From the first moment he met her, he had looked her in the eyes. The whole time they talked, played and ate. It made her feel something, many somethings for the first time. For a moment she was struck with muteness. She was speechless. How could someone like him exist? He couldn't be real, could he? Surely this was a dream, or maybe she'd finally gone mad. Then, as if to mock her, the world threw her a curveball. A woman appeared behind him, insinuating that he'd led her on or been unfaithful. Haru looked confused for a moment before regaining composure and bantered back and forth with the woman, Makoto Zukoki. She cleared up the misunderstanding. But she didn't do just that. Oh no. She launched forth more bolts from the blue. Apparently he wasn't just a silly, weird guy. He was also a vigilante. And a great one at that too, having saved her brother from an army of villains. And he was humble and playful about it. Once again she began to question her sanity. She'd known him for less than an hour, and he was already stuck in her mind like a stupidly catchy song. She just couldn't stop thinking about him. And who could blame her? He was just so interesting. And funny. And apparently brave enough to face an army of villains alone. And quippy. Almost as if he swam the flow of conversation itself. Suddenly, in her eyes, he began to shine like a diamond, and she lost herself in her childhood fantasies, happily dreaming away. As she looked at the photo she took with Makoto and the heavily goggled Haru, she couldn't help but giggle in joy. She rolled around in her bed, chirping happily, only to roll too far one time and fall off the edge with a thud. "Atatata!" she cried. "What are you doing up there, Toru?" asked her mother. "Nothing," she replied, blushing. She couldn't wait to meet him again. But she could only hope to. After all, she'd forgotten to ask for his phone number when they'd gone their separate ways. Stupid Toru. Stupid. Stupid. She chastised herself. Footsteps rang out on the steps as her door swung open. "All right, out with it. You've been fidgeting around for 2 hours now. What's the matter, Toru?" Toru blushed in shame and then blushed deeper as she thought of the matter. "It's nothing, Mom," she said, embarrassedly, as her phone fell from her hand, leaving the photo in full view of her mother. "Is it a boy?" her ever-perceptive mother asked. "Yes," Toru answered in almost a whisper. "Iowa. Who could have thought that my little Toru would have a crush already? Tell me all about him," her mother said, taking a seat beside her. "It's not like that, Mom. He's just a friend, no, an acquaintance. I just met him today." Toru objected. "Is that why you have been staring at this photo and giggling for the last 2 hours?" her mom teased. "Tush," Toru replied. "With less than 2 weeks left till the UA entrance exam now, I realized I couldn't get to all the students of 1AM and 1B on such a short notice. Not if I wanted to complete putting the finishing touches to the last part of my pre-UA prep work. So came the hard choice. Get to as many students as possible or get to finishing the last few videos and songs to make Imiko and me into national sensations. Well, that wasn't a hard choice at all. It was obvious even. I pulled out my journal, and began to put pen to paper. These last few bits would rock the nation, nay, the world. Hopefully. The next day, I brought my guitar and journal, meeting Imiko and the crew at Soga's shelter. "Mind telling me why we're doing this again? Didn't Imiko get acquitted?" Soga asked, first thing in the morning. "A good morning to you too, Soga," I sassed. "No, seriously. Haru. Equipment costs money, you know," he said. "I'm not an idiot, Soga. We'll be monetizing these and the previously made songs. Makoto-san has already used her connections to get us a meeting with the indie label publishers. After this, I doubt any of us will have to worry about money ever again," I answered. "When did you even do all this? And write the songs?" Rapt asked. "Last night," I replied nonchalantly. "You never cease to amaze me, you damn brat," Soga said, hitting my head. "Jesus. That hurt. Besides, I'm 14 already. Stop treating me like a kid," I said. "Sure, kid. Let's go. We have a long drive to make." "A long drive? Isn't there a park nearby where we can do this?" I asked. "No. The generators are bust. We're going to Lake Harmona. It's got a campground where we can get the equipment working. It'll cost a pretty penny, but it'll be worth it." "Hold on. If we're going to Hamamatsu anyway, why not just use Haru-chan's house as a recording location? It's close to the beach and the lake," Deku suggested. "No. No. My house is just a small farm. I mean, where will we even record it, what with the pigs squealing and what not?" I said. Didn't you say your family doesn't raise pigs anymore though? Deku replied. I glared at him, aghast. How can you betray me like this, Deku? He's just shy about it, is what? Rapt said, grinning. Oh. How cute. So you're still human, huh? Pop commented. Wait a minute. What do you mean I'm still human? Did you think I was a monster or something? I asked. Well, not a monster exactly, but more of a stiff nugget. Soga answered. Like you had a stick up your ass and 1,000 secrets to hide. Rapt added. Oh come on. I'm not that bad, right guys? I said. They looked away, awkwardly laughing. Guys. Deku. I asked. Haru-chan, you do seem like that sometimes. He said. Ha. Fine. We can go to my family's farmhouse. But please don't go looking for my baby pictures or anything. I said. Now that you've said that, how can we not do exactly that? Makoto teased. I sighed in defeat. Why did it come to this? As we pulled up to my house, the dogs began to bark, alerting my dad to our approach. We stopped outside the gate as I got off to ask my parents' permission. My dad walked out to meet me, dogs in tow. Haru. Everything okay? Why are you home so early? Didn't you go out with your friends? He asked. Yeah. About that, can we use the basement for the day? I asked. Sure. Are your friends coming over or? No, they're here already. Those are your friends? He asked. Yeah. Remember that song I wrote for the girl I liked? He nodded. Yeah, you never told us how it went. Well, so what happened was that people liked it. Like a lot. So I got a deal from a music label. And now we're recording that and a couple other songs I wrote. That's great news. Of course you can use the basement. Come, bring them in. He said, opening the gates while as I gave a thumbs up to the crew. What's up here? My mother asked, walking out of the chicken coop with the feeding tray. You remember that song he wrote? Father told her. Ooh-ha. What about it? She asked. He got a record deal for it. So he's got his friends from his band to help record it. He explained. You have friends, Haru-chan? My mother asked, with great shock. It too, mama. Why does everyone think I'm some friendless weirdo? I muttered. It's just you never talk about them or bring them over, or anything of the sort. I was almost worried you were being bullied at one point. My mother answered. That sounds exactly like him. Makoto said. You're all just ganging up on me today. I complained. It's not my fault you're so fun to bully. Makoto replied. As the rest of them got to setting up the equipment in the basement, I went up to lock my room. Can't have them find more ammo on me. When I got back, my mother pulled me aside. So, which one is it? She asked. Which what? The girl. The one you wrote that song for. I don't know what. I said before she interrupted. It's the blonde one, isn't it? She asked with a cheeky smile. Mama. I protested. So it is. She chuckled. How did you even know that? I asked. I'm your mother, that's how. She answered. Is that why you pulled me aside? No. I want to know if they're staying for dinner. She asked. I think so. I answered. All right. I'll whip up the best meal they've ever had. Just you wait. She said, as she skipped away to the kitchen, humming a happy tune. I sighed and returned to the basement. The equipment is ready. What are we shooting first? Soga asked. I looked around at the basement and thought for a moment. I have an idea. Wrapped, switch on that light. The one at the end, with the crooked bar. Yeah. I said, giving instructions. Deku, check that box over there. I think we had some spray paint cans left from painting the dog houses. Imiko, get a loose-fitting jeans from the van, about Deku's size. So we're doing the wrap one first? Soga asked. Yup. Brittle bones 1 and 2 both. Pop, can you make some masks, one white, one red, with horns? I asked. Yeah. On it. She replied. Are you going to sing or? Soga asked, switching on the Casio. No. Deku is perfect for the role. Short and sweet. And with the freckles. I said. You aren't that much taller than me, Haru-chan. Just 3 inches bigger. Deku protested. He. 3 inches can make a lot of difference, Deku. I replied to a confused Deku. See. This is why we think you're weird. What 14-year-old quips like that? Makoto said. A very smart one. I replied proudly, as Makoto chuckled. All right. Get in position. Wrapped, follow Deku from the right-hand side, and make a low-angle shot. I said. Moyo. Move the background smoothly. No. Not like that. Smoothly, like petting a cat on the back as she moves past your leg. Gently, smoothly. Pop, get me the masks. We'll move forward with the second one as soon the first one's done filming. I left the basement to get my bike from the yard, as Soga took over directing. Activating Birdsey, I found the perfect location for the second shoot. A hidden grassy cove, some ways from the nearest beach, perfect, with an old car in place and a small view of the ocean. The angle would be difficult, but it'd do. I called our house cat, Chika, over. She was a friendly little lady. Very loving. Almost like a dog. It was only right, as she'd been raised with the farm dogs since she was a baby. She ran over to me, clinging to my pants, climbing up my leg and onto my shoulder. I took the bike and some thin steel fencing wire from the garage and returned to the basement. The first song's done? I asked. Yeah. You mentioned about a bike for the second one. How are we going to use a bike in here? Soga questioned. With these. I said, holding up TGE steel wire. See that wooden beam? We tie it up there with the wire. Then we edit it out post-op. I said. That's a great idea. I'm glad you like it. Now, me and Imiko will go film the last 2 songs. Those just need a still camera angle. You guys wrap the shoot up here. I said, picking up a camera and stand from the spares. MK. Come back quick though. We need to deliver these edited by tomorrow. Makoto called out. Yeah. Be back in like half an hour. Come, Imiko. Bye. Imiko said, following me out. We made our way to the small cove, as I set up the camera by the car, facing high, above the grass. All right. You ready? I asked. Imiko nodded, putting on the hat with bunny ears. I lay down below the car with the guitar, as Chika nuzzled up to me. I looked at Imiko on the car hood. She looked like an angel in the white overalls. Just right for the song. I pointed to her head. She exclaimed, "All right." The wig. She pulled out the wig from her bag and placed it on, tucking away her stray hairs beneath it, before giving me a thumbs up. "Okay. 3, 2, 1, go," I said. I played the guitar as she sang the first part of the duet. Before halfway through, I got up, Chika on my shoulder, adding in my part. Then Chika jumped off my shoulder and onto my lap, ruining the scene. "No. Chika," I said, picking up the feline, and placing her back on my shoulder. Within another 2 takes, it was perfectly done. Finishing up my solo, we wrapped up the shoot and sent the videos to the label for publishing. They'd apply the final touches of course before publishing. That done, we sat down for a hearty meal, and not too few offers from my mother to Makoto about becoming her daughter-in-law. Later, everyone went their separate ways. As I sat by the computer, watching the views on the promo go up, I realized I hadn't filmed the most important video of the day. My announcement. I picked up the camera and switched on all lights. Setting it just low enough to obscure my face, I began recording. "Good evening, my lovely little popsicles. Today I have an important announcement to make. These past 2 years, as I have continued my investigative journalism, you all have offered me a great deal of support. Even gotten me to 1.5 million subscribers. And I can't thank you enough for that. But there is only so much corruption you can uncover, so many problems you can point out, before you start to feel hopeless. Like the world has gone to hell in a handbasket and you can't do anything to change it. That feeling of sheer powerlessness, the frustration and weakness. I hate it. I hate not being able to bring real change to the world," I said, with great emotion, clenching my fist on my chest. Hell, I even squeezed out a few tears. And I can't just sit by and watch it any longer. I believe that hero society is corrupt and wasteful beyond belief, and I'm going to change it. From within. I'm going to blaze a path to a world without heroes. Not a world where all the heroes are dead, but a world so kind and utopian, it has no need for heroes anymore. And to that end, I will do my best to lead by example, and become the #1 hero. How, you ask? Well, how else but through attending a hero school. I have applied to become part of the upcoming semester at UA High. And I hope that others who are disenfranchised, demeaned and mistreated by this broken society will follow my example and try to bring change into the world, one step at a time. With kindness. Thank you for watching. And please continue to watch my actions. I won't disappoint. Goodbye and good night. See you all next time, hopefully at UA. I said. Uploading the video, I fell into a deep sleep. I would need the rest. All of it. After all, next Monday was the UA entrance exams. People will think whatever they want to think. And you can't change their minds no matter what. It was a lesson Hitoshi Shinso had learned early on as a child. Ironic that, given his quirk, all his life he'd been taunted for it. At first they were open about it, straightforward, even. But as time went on, as he grew, the taunts became passing remarks, subtle judgments, and obvious prejudices. It's a villainous quirk, they'd say. Or that was what it would eventually boil down to. It was always the same. The wariness, distrust, and fear he could see in their eyes, hidden behind the smiling faces and middle-distance stares, and awkward laughter. So easy to misuse. Turned to you'd make a perfect villain. Don't mind control me. Turn to don't touch me. His quirk didn't even work by touching. But that didn't matter to them. They'd think what they wanted to think, do what they wanted to do. It didn't matter what the truth of the matter was or how he felt. It was always all about them. Them. Always. And he was of half a mind to prove them right. See how they liked it when they had to feel the pain. The sting of shame and guilt for something they were entirely innocent of. But he held himself back. He wouldn't give in. Never. He was stronger than that. He knew it. And yet with each passing day, with each new bit of wisdom, he grew weary of it all. Perhaps there was no hope. Perhaps there truly was no other way to this. Perhaps this was how it was meant to be. It was his cross to bear. Yet he never cursed his quirk. After all, it was the only thing that was ever truly his own. And he prided himself for that. Then, day he began watching these videos from a certain boy. They weren't life-changing or earth-shattering revelations. Things he had already known or guessed at. If anything, they reinforced his worldview. But there was something odd about them. Perhaps it was clarity of the topics or the neutrality of the tone. Or maybe it was that it presented not only the problems but also possible solutions to them. Something he'd never seen before. A tone that suggested that the world could head for something better. That the future held promise untold. Just subtly, if not a bit oddly, the videos communicated that to him. And it brightened his world just a little, not like the sun in the morning, but more like an LED lamp in a pitch-dark room. Then it happened. The case with the serial killer girl. Imiko Toga. The boy gave her a way out. With all the kindness and compassion he bleated on and on about like a broken record. And Hitoshi was certain he'd pay for it with blood. After all, no good deed goes unpunished in this world. He'd expected to see a murder report soon. Instead, what he saw was a miracle. Not only had he not been murdered, he had fought for justice, for someone Hitoshi was told was irredeemable, and come out in one piece. And unlike every other person Hitoshi had seen, he did what he preached. He fought against the might of the corrupt and broken world, with nothing but kindness and compassion. And he won. Imiko Toga was acquitted within weeks in a society where cases dragged on for years. Then it hit him like a ton of bricks. And something cracked within him. Change wasn't just possible, anyone could do it. And he finally believed in something. He had always wanted to be a hero. If only to prove wrong those who'd taunted him his whole life. But now he wanted something more. Something tangible. Genuine. Something he could reach for and grasp with his own two hands. Now he had a target. A goal to be reached. He wanted to be a hero that could bring change. To solve these oft-ignored problems hiding in the niches of the world, gnawing away at its roots like Nihogura. The problems he had faced as a child. Problems no doubt others did too. Then came the latest or perhaps the final video. Some talk about kindness and hope. Other useless drivel. But then he said the three important words. UA entrance exam. Almost as if lightning had struck him, his attention was grabbed. He himself had applied for the UA entrance exams not too long ago. A peer. A comrade. A friend. Hitoshi thought. Maybe, finally he'd have one who understood him. Someone who didn't fear what he could do but rather saw the potential for good in his quirk the way he himself tried to. Maybe this would be his hero academia. We sat in the auditorium, amid shuttered whispers, as Mick explained the rules. I looked around and tallied all the major characters from the series. All of them were accounted for. Good. My reckless actions didn't twist the canon timeline too much. I heaved a sigh of relief. Just as Mick finished explaining the points systems, and after Tida's outburst, he said something that wasn't said in canon. Something I'd brought on. Remember students, no cameras are allowed in. We have been informed that a particularly notorious social media influencer and vigilante is attempting to enter the course. And while we can't legally bar him from entering the academy through the proper channels, we can prevent and disqualify anyone that pulls mischief in the tests. So be warned. He threatened. Heh. As if you pansies could catch me if I wanted to film something in here. I wouldn't, of course. The test was already difficult enough with only using one of my abilities. After all, the more hidden trump cards I have, the better. Might as well not make it any more troublesome by adding the risk of being caught and disqualified. That could derail my entire plan. Now please proceed to your assigned test zones in an orderly fashion. Starting with student-assigned zone roped this way. He pointed at the auditorium exit nearest to the podium. As I made my way down the aisles, Deku in tow, being careful not to openly associate with me, for fear of being found out, a hand grabbed my shoulder. I jerked away instinctively, almost tripping, before turning around to see my guest. It was a girl with beige, straight hair, now missing their characteristic frayed ends. The blackheads on her nose were all but a memory, and so were the dark bags under her eyes. She looked like a completely different person now. I guess having someone to look good for does that to you. Hey Toru. How you doing? I said, flashing her a classic Johnny Bravo smile. He. I'm just fine. Listen, before I forget this again. Can I have your number? She asked, handing me her phone. Sure. I said, logging it in. Thanks. See you later. Best of luck in your exam. She said, running away to meet her group. In the distance, with her group, I spotted the class pervert of canon, Minoru Minter. Guess all the loser quirks are put in one batch to fight like a makeshift GU pot, huh? Strongest of the weakest survive. Seems fair enough, I suppose. More rational than I would have imagined them to be too. But then again, they weren't the top hero school for nothing. I exited the auditorium and followed up with Deku at the bus stand. All right Deku. Today's the day. You got your gear checked? I asked. Yup. Triple checked. No issues. Good, now remember, the robots have an off switch by the back. Avoid the blows, swing around back, and switch them off. Don't try being fancy. Your Tarzas don't have infinite batteries, understand? I said. Yeah. I get it. He said. Then repeat it to me. I asked. Avoid getting hit, switch off from behind, rescue people for extra points. He parried. Good. I know you'll do well. I comforted. He nodded with a smile. Let's go. I said, raising my fist. Plus ultra. He replied, fist bumping me. We entered our respective testing grounds. Time to show the world. I am here. I pulled out the skate wheels embedded in my custom order shoe cum roller skates, and got in position. Mick walked up to his post in the tower and announced. Ready. Go. And go I did, weaving past the other, notably Kaminari, and Zero, as I swept through the city, immobilizing and switching off bots, saving students caught in over their heads and being sure to show how my definitely one and only quirk worked into as many surveillance cameras as possible. Best make an impression. And a strong and steady one at that. I figured, Azawa would have a rather visceral reaction upon seeing my quirk, what with me having left him and Ingenium to hang in the middle of a terrorist attack for over an hour. That should be enough to make an impression. I'm sure the other teachers would be curious to know who gave the dry-eye man such a scare. I jumped over a robot, freezing my shoes in midair, one at a time, climbing its chassis, before immobilizing its head as it rushed forward, decapitating itself. Stupid bot. I was gaining points fast and emptying the ground of targets faster. That couldn't possibly be good for the other students. That made me certain that they would release the 0-pointer sooner than later. And boy oh boy, was I right. Not sooner than I had spoken it and the ground burst open, as the 0-pointer stood up, supporting itself by its arms, pushing on buildings. All right, all right, all right. Time for some theatricality. I saw a boy trapped under the rubble from the robot's support. I ran towards him, even as the robot began its charge at the nearest target, me. I slid up to the unconscious boy, lifting the rubble off of him and hauling him onto my shoulders in a fireman's carry. It was then that I noticed his face. It was Monoma. The power copier. He slowly nudged awake, even as the giant robot bore on us. I acted scared and ran along, carrying Monoma, showing myself to be at great strain in doing so. After all, self-sacrifice equals rescue points. And the youthful display of sportsmanship was a definite 10 from midnight. The robot got closer and closer to me, gaining on us at a frightening pace, befitting a junk pilot's size. I appeared convicted as I put down Monoma by the curb. They must be thinking, oh. So he's abandoning the boy to escape on his own. That's how I'd get them. Against all expectations, I turned around and walked back towards the robot, capturing its whole figure in my sight, as I activated my ability, Immobilization I. The robot stopped mid-swing, its arms inches away from my face, purposefully of course. Now that's what I call a performance. As the bell rang to signal the end of the exam, I acted hurt and fell onto my knees, looking back at Monoma, as if to see if he was safe. Really just selling the act here. Then, using trance on myself, I fainted. I awoke in the nurse's office, Deku by my side. Hey buddy. How'd the exam go? I asked, forcing a smile. Trance-induced fainting certainly had its backsides. One being a fucking hangover-level headache. Haru-chan. Deku cried, almost tearing up. You okay, Deku? Don't tell me you failed the test or something. I jested. Am I okay? Look at yourself, Baker. You almost died. Deku shouted at me. No, I didn't. I said stubbornly. Damn it. Fine. But you're going to promise me you won't do anything this reckless ever again? He insisted. Deku, you know I can't do that. I'm a hero. I am going to have duties. And isn't those what UA is all about? Going plus ultra. I explained. Not if you kill yourself, Booyah. A voice said from behind the curtain. I pulled the curtain open to see Recovery Girl glaring at me. What you did today was stupid. I can only heal so much at a time. You need to take care of yourself. Or else someday. She warned halfway, before the door slammed open, revealing Small Might. Haru-kun, you've woken up. That's great. I've called you a cab. Can you walk? He asked. Yeah. I think so, I said, getting off the bed and stretching. Then let's get you home. It's already getting late. Your parents will worry. He said. Yeah. Let's go, I said, as Deku fumbled around me, expecting me to fall any moment. Meanwhile in the UA grading room, Nezu looked at the newest batch of students entering UA. They looked promising, he thought, looking at the quirkless boy, who had special requested the use of self-created weapons for the exam. And he had done stunningly well, rounding up to 51 points through sheer force of will. That was admirable. And perhaps he would even become an icon one day, for all quirkless kids to look up to. He switched the feeds to ground C next. This was another exceptional case. The boy with the explosion quirk. He'd gotten 77 villain points and no rescue points. Not an odd case, but certainly the most notable of its sort in the batch. He'd be ranked second this coming term. Not through any fault of his own though. The first position candidate was just too exceptional. The plain boy with a restraining quirk. Not only had he found out the weaknesses of the robots like the quirkless kid had, but he'd also brought skates for ease of mobility. Smart and resourceful. But that wasn't what caught their attention. Oh no. It was his final stand against the 0-pointer. Even as the giant rolled over, even as everyone ran away, the boy risked his life to save an examinee stuck under rubble. Then when he could run no more, he deposited the examinee on a curbside. At first they'd thought he was going to run and leave the other boy behind. But he pleasantly surprised them, as he turned back, and faced the 0-pointer head-on. And at a great cost, fainting from quirk overuse soon afterwards. But just the sheer strength of will and courage he showed, single-handedly stopping the giant robot in place, would have been enough for him to become a great hero, much less pass the exam. Which he did. With flying colors, earning UA's highest marks ever at a whopping 165 points, getting a perfect 10 in rescue points from every teacher. What was his quirk again? Vlad asked. Midnight pulled out a form and read out. Argus Panopts. What a weird name. I wonder what that means. She commented. It's the name of the all-seeing jailer of Greek myth. A fitting name for a restraining quirk this good. Nezu explained. This year will be a good one. Nezu thought to himself. And he was sure his colleagues agreed. Aizawa even asked for the kids to be specifically in his class. How interesting. So, are we in agreement? He asked. The rest of his colleagues nodded in approval. Shikimori Haru. Pass. Ijuku Midoriya. Pass. Bakugo Katsuki. Pass. A week later, in the Shikimori residence. Haru-chan. There's a mail for you. From UA. My mother called out. I came down from my room, as the whole family gathered in the living room to see the results. I pressed the hollow projector as an image of Small Might appeared in his big form. Congratulations. Haru Shounin. You have passed the entrance exam. And not just that, but with flying colors. Too many colors at that. You scored a whopping 95 villain points, not counting assists. But that's not all. We also use a secret point system, called rescue points. That is to discern the most important mark of a hero, self-sacrifice to protect others from danger. And you aced this too. With a perfect 10 from all teachers at that. Shall we see how? He said, pointing at the screen behind him, as it lit up, showing my various rescues. But that's not all either. He continued, you also stood up in the face of unsurmountable odds, against the zero-pointer, risking your own life to save a fellow examinee. Truly admirable. The screen now showed the scene of me stopping the huge robot, before collapsing. Haru-chan. What did you do? Didn't I tell you not to risk your life like that? My mother said, smacking me over the head. Reoai. I cried. And you didn't even tell us you fainted. How irresponsible can you be? My father scolded. Sorry. I said, I just didn't want to worry you unnecessarily. HMPH. Don't do it again. All right. We're your parents. Worrying is our job. You don't need to worry about it. He added. Your father's right, Haru-chan. You can't be hiding these things from us. Is this how we have to find out? Huh? Tell me. She said. I'm sorry. I repeated. You better be. She said, resuming the video. You're so cool, Haru-shanin. The big guy said, and with that you have scored a total of 165 points in the exam, getting the highest score in UA's history, even greater than me. He continued, therefore, I'd like to congratulate you Haru Shikimori. Welcome to your hero academia. He ended, complete with motivational music. And damn does that hit home. I was almost moved. That's great. Haru-chan. Congratulations. Tell me what you want to eat, I'll make all your favorite dishes today. Mother chirped happily. You did good. I'm proud of you. My father added. And something within me felt glad. These strangers, that I had considered mobs most of my new life, felt, for the first time, like family. In the period between late February to early April, students generally had nothing to do. It was a sort of limbocation if you must, since school would start soon and exams had just ended. A respite in some ways. It was in this odd bit of time that Deku inherited One for All. Better than in canon where he shattered his arms and legs trying to use it first time in an unfamiliar situation. At least now he'd get to train in its use before the quirk apprehension test. But even before that came the matter of deciding the costume designs. That brings us, or rather me, here. Mujutafu Heights. Deku's apartment. I rang the doorbell and waited, as frantic thumping sounded out from within. Seconds later, Deku stumbled out, swinging the door open. Haru-chan. Come in. He said, grinning ear to ear. Is this your first time bringing home a friend Deku? On second thought, that sounded about right. With what Bakugo had put him through, it was likely that he hadn't had a friend over in ages. Still that over-enthusiastic grin was getting creepy to look at. Deku. I said, as he turned to look at me. Instantly, I grabbed his face with both hands, pushing his grin into a more manageable one. Fuck. That grin was creeping me out. I said, satisfied. Deku suddenly looked downcast. Oh man. This baby. It's nothing on you Deku. I get it. You're happy to have a friend and I like that innocent part of you. It's just that grin was getting creepy. I didn't mean anything by it, really. Within moments his grin was back. Why? I sighed. Fine. Let's get this over with. Let's go inside and discuss the designs. You got yours. I asked. Yep. Come and see. He said, dragging me into his room, enthusiastically. His room was normal. As normal as it could get anyway. There was no more overwhelming amounts of All Might merchandise lining the walls, just a couple of figurines and posters. Instead, the room looked like a steampunk study room, littered with soldering irons, cutters and half-finished inventions and prototypes. The walls were lined with maps, blueprints, charts and graphs. Looked like a proper budget bat cave. He. So obvious where he got that idea. It was almost cute in that. I sat down on his bed, as he pulled out 8 separate blueprints from under the rubble on his desk, some pock-marked with coffee stains and drool. I've got the whole thing planned out, he said. Oh. Show me then, I said. He pulled up one of the blueprints out and pointed. You remember the bat helmet? I made some improvements using some free designs available online. A couple dampeners here. See that bulge? Protects from head injuries. I also added an amateur version of night vision. Then there's this bump here, he said, pointing to a poorly painted-on protrusion on the front top of the helmet. That's for a camera to record crime scenes. Makes it easier to review stuff in hindsight. It's also connected to a small back camera, so I have 360-degree field of vision. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of it? Damn, Deku. You're a genius, I exclaimed. It was honestly something I hadn't considered. After all, if I can just project eyes everywhere, why would I worry about 360-degree vision? I had 4D vision. When active, my abilities made ambushing me impossible. At full power, I could see through time itself, much less the back of my head. What about the torso? I asked. Oh. Ooh. That's a really good one. I found this old patent about a blow-up suit that protected old people from falling. The creator made it public as a donation to charity. So, I added it to the torso armor. Small pockets of inflatable gel. Cushions, almost anything a normal person would have to deal with. Maybe more, he said, as he got lost in explaining the features. Good. I liked that dedication and purpose. Maybe he was more useful than just a placeholder till I could steal one for all. Heh. I wasn't one to look a gift horse in the mouth. Mostly because I didn't need to. I could just see through it. Regardless, it was surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. As Deku pulled out the blueprints for the gloves, his mother knocked on the door, before entering with a plate of juice and snacks. How are you boys doing? Having fun? Here's something to munch on while you geek out, she said. Yes, Deku answered. Yeah. Thanks for the snacks, I said. Your mom seems like a nice lady, I commented, munching down on a puff. Ooh-ha, he mumbled proudly, downing his glass of juice. Now the gloves, he said, continuing the explanation. 2 hours and 11 blueprints later, I prepared to leave, as Deku fell asleep. Night-night, Deku, I said, ruffling his hair. He moaned happily, already half asleep. I slipped out with my bag, and made for the door, only to be stopped by the mom. Can we talk? She asked. Sure. Why not? I said, following her to the couch. So? I prodded. Did you know he stayed up all night yesterday to make those blueprints? She asked. I figured as much, seeing how he's half asleep at what? 11 in the morning. I said, looking at the clock. You know, you're exactly like Izuku describes you. So odd and direct. She commented, chuckling. He talks about me. I axed. Surprising, considering he never so much as peeped about the bullying from Bakugo. Since he met you 2 years ago, he hasn't stopped talking about you. Not one day goes by when I don't hear about Haru-chan this, Haru-chan that. He practically worships you, you know. She said, tearing up. Are you okay, Miss Midoriya? I asked, concerned. It's nothing. Just, ever since his father left and we found out he was quirkless, I have never seen him so happy. And it's all thanks to you. She cried, tears now falling freely from her eyes. Not another crying person. Damn it. Why am I surrounded by these things? I just wanted to say, thank you. Inko Midoriya said, thank you for helping him. Thank you for believing in him, even when I didn't. Thank you for saving my boy. Grabbing my hands, eyes full of gratitude. It's okay. I fumbled. It was odd. Shaking even. The more time I spent with these mobs, I have almost begun to see them as people. They have their own lives. Their own families. Likes, dislikes. Thoughts and feelings. But what of me? A voice cried deep within me. What of me? Something I had hated to consider. The fact that this was their world. That I was the alien imposter visiting, taking advantage of their guilelessness, no, their trust. Like an eldritch god. No, not a god, but rather, %@happy smiley. A piercing headache shot through my head as my auto-defense protocol activated autonomously, preventing a full-on existential crisis and possible meltdown from occurring. Just a little trick I had installed way back in my baby days to prevent all sorts of mental problems, mind control, power copying or causal disruptions. Now for the first time in years it had proven a worthwhile investment. I made the right decision starting from trance in mastering my powers. Slowly, and with much prodding, I calmed her down, before taking my leave. Phew. What a sticky situation. For all my guile and deception, that is one thing I can't handle. Seeing the people I don't bother with crying. Honestly, it was such a waste of time to cry. I personally didn't believe in crying unless there was something to be gained from it. And while I understood the need, it was never pleasant even when I was the one crying. All it was odd. And disturbing. I shook my head violently. No time for this. I have better things to do. I boarded the train to Setagaya, pulling out my journal. It's been a week now. The Rokuro clone should be ready in a couple of hours. And I would be damned if I was going to miss its birth. As I arrived at the lab, an alarm rang out, indicating the completion of the project. I ran over to the pod as it drained of liquid. And there stood a beautiful little boy, night blue of hair, with big, brown eyes. Mama? He asked, looking at me. No. I said, Papa. Papa. He cutely repeated after me. That's it guys, hope you like the video. Stay tuned to see the next parts. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And tell me your recommendation in comment section down below. Thanks for watching.